Big Bang, nuclear fission, DNA decoding, developments which have changed everything. The revelation with the philosophical context, with the questions who we are, why we are here, and what's the main, what will be further. Data transmission, quantum electronics, linear programming, superconductivity, holography, gravitation waves. Thanks to what? Due to what? Insight, diligence, trust, non-explained motivations, and many years went. So with the cooperation and joint projects, when we share goals, when we implement knowledge and enjoy mutual results, in this case the meaning is born, and so the energy is formed and it reveals truth. So thanks to pioneers, thanks to those who are against status quo, and thanks for those who are answering the questions, who never give up and they see the most important things, those who believe that everything is possible. So we make hypotheses, we reject them, we formulate no assumptions, and we anticipate enthusiasm, involvement. So what makes us move further? The craving for everything new. So this is the natural process, and it's our best condition. We're filled with the attentive and creativity. That's we are who create progress. We manage it, and for the benefit of strong, creative, technological Russia, which inspire the world, creations and leadership. Dear participants, so we're welcome at the 7th International Forum of Technological Development, Technoprom-2019. So for the greeting, there would be Sergei Ivanovich Menyailo, the envoy from the President of the Russian Federation in the Siberian Federal District. Dear Alexandrovich, dear guests, dear colleagues, I greet everyone at this venue of our International Forum of Technological Development, Technoprom-2019, and the forum of this year takes place and it is the slogan, it is the science of new era and the technology of transformation, and has got just quite specific meaning for the Siberian science, but for the whole Russia as well. So as the President of Russia, he has just noted the key priorities, and it is the acceleration of the technological progress and the acceleration of the international cooperation. That's why we implement different projects in various areas, in science, in export, and in education as well, and in other directions. So we have made very important international decisions for the development of the Siberian branch of Academy of Science and Novosibirsk's academic town, and different things at the territory of Siberia. So we're trying to do our best to diversify the military complex, so import substitutions in the key branches of our industry, and we are doing it on the basis of the breakthrough technological decisions and of course the products. Also, we take measures to develop innovation in infrastructure and the support of entrepreneurship and business. That's why we provide so very good place for the Russia in the competition, the world competitions. And so the high-tech business and science is facing such tasks as to make our investment more attractive, acceleration and implementation of different scientific research, the broadening of international cooperation in the field of science and technologies. These and other issues we are going to discuss in different formats at this forum. And I am absolutely sure that we can work out concrete recommendations for the strategic development of the Russian science, Russian industry, and which help us to come near to the better future. So I wish you fruitful work, well, in the topics we are going to discuss, fruitful approaches, and so the meeting the goals which the President of Russian Federation has formulated. And also, I would like to add, dear colleagues, that the topics we are going to discuss and different venues, so it's quite actual, they're quite topical, because we have been at the mutual meeting of the Siberian branch of Academy of Science, and we have discussed these topics as well. And today we are going to determine what is the role and the place of the science. And so we are seeing that there are quite of scientific research we're doing. And for example, today when we visited the exhibition, one of the question was those who just, so they were asked whether it is manufactured here or not. And when we said, yes, it is ours, but sometimes we do not manufacture some things. That's why we're being here and buying from abroad, from our potential partners. And of course, the question arises, so, well, we have got huge scientific and industrial potential. So we have got industrial potential. And of course, we are going to fill these gaps. And that's why we will make them work. And Alexander Dmitrich and Andrei Alexandrovich, they told about it today. And we are going to continue to speak on these topics as well. It is the science commercialization. So, and this issue, it could accelerate the implementation of the research in our practical life and in the products we are going to make. And so in particular, so we are speaking about the possibilities of the military complex. We are going to speak about it further. So how could it be done? And so we'll discuss it. So fruitful work, be success. Thank you.
Для приветственного обращения к трибуне приглашается Вячеслав Иванович Шпорт, член коллегии военно-промышленной комиссии Российской Федерации.
Участникам 7-го международного форума технологического развития Технопром-2019. Уважаемый Сергей Иванович, уважаемые коллеги, приветствую организаторов и участников 7-го международного форума технологического развития Технопром-2019. В очередной раз форум собрал на своей площадке представительное сообщество ученых и разработчиков, промышленников и предпринимателей, экспертов и представителей власти для обсуждения важнейших вопросов развития Российской Федерации. Задачи модернизации промышленного комплекса, внедрения и трансфера инновационных технологий, повышение качества жизни населения, развитие международной кооперации сегодня приобретает все большую актуальность. Важно, что эти стратегические вопросы являются основными темами дискуссионных площадок форума Технопром-2019. Представленная на форуме выставка призвана продемонстрировать последние достижения в сфере производства отечественной, высокотехнологичной и наукоемкой продукции. Уверен, что приняты решения, установленные деловые связи, достигнутые договоренности в ходе работы форума и выставки будут способствовать ускорению
will contribute the acceleration of scientific and technological development of the Russian Federation. I wish all the participants of the forum fruitful work and successful solutions of all the tasks set. Deputy Yuri Ivanovich Borisov.
Respectful participants, we start our plenary, and so its topic is the science of a new era, transformation technologies. So the moderators of the seated Boriskin, the chairman of the board of directors of Kiwi, Christopher Tan, executive vice president and partner of Pemandu Associates, dear friends, so the world is at the break of some changes. The fourth industrial revolution, as all the previous revolutions, so this revolution is based on the implementations of the new technologies. And now we are going to speak about these technologies, maybe about some of them. And so we'll start from the platforms. And what is the most remarkable one? Because now we're the witnesses of the creative and deconstructed platforms which have transferred several industries, for example, telecommunication and multimedia, up to catering and taxi and retail. But the existence of such platforms, it couldn't be possible because of the creation several decades before the technology, which is used exclusively in the scientific areas. We are speaking about internet, and it is just quite good example how the science is influencing technologies using its tools. And on the level of business models and the platform business models, so they were based on the research of the economy, network economy, and the so-called surplus product. Because when the value of the platform, maybe it was internet messenger or marketplace, so they are just increasing higher than the number of its consumers increases in this or that marketplace. And in the nearest future, we would be the winners of the expansion of platform technologies, while in more regulated areas such as education and health service. So we would be the witnesses of geographical expansion, and also they are getting into B2B segment. But of course, this just motion won't be a smooth one. And it's not because all the sectors are quite even and they're transformed via platform technologies. But the main question is that the platform, as any technology, it's quite valuable, but it's quite neutral. It could be used for the globalization and also for commercial wars. Trade wars, and because this or that platform, it could be just a capture of this or that. For example, now we'll remember some episode about the trade war between the United States and China, where Google and Huawei were involved. The global character of the platform quite often gets into the contradiction with the national interests of separate states, and these states using their sovereignty, and because of the interests and safety of, and also tax problems or the personal data protection, of course, they're against regional expansion and against global platforms. And because at the certain point, the platforms on the initial stage, so they make the competition higher and the price was a reduction. So, but it could be changed in another way, because the platforms, they monopolize the market, and if the supplies, there could be 100, 1,000, dozens of thousands, but as in the platforms, there could be 2 or 3 of them could survive. And it would be just the attraction of anti-monopoly measures. The digital character of platform made it possible to reconsider the role of data. And here is also the development of some neighboring industries. For example, cloud technologies, so they made it possible to reduce the cost of the storage of data, and the money which was spent, and it could be possible for huge corporations, but so they made it possible for the small companies, startup companies with quite low budget, because now they got possibility to scale their business model without just huge investments in the infrastructure. And if previously the data collection, it was quite separate and quite costly procedure, but in digital economy, it is a sort of a sub-product. With the increase and the activity of this or that company. In this case, we are speaking about social media geolocation. Well, and of course, now the thing internet with different senses. But what is the main problems? That this data, they are not structured. Because sometimes it's very difficult to organize them in this or that table. And in this case, the artificial intelligence will be quite helpful. In this case, it would be quite possible for work to work with this non-structural data, but of course we are facing new problems. Where are the borders of new privacy? Who is the owner of this data? Who can use this data? And so from the ethical point of view, is it possible to use this data not only for the forecasting, but also for the manipulation, to build in the social ratings? And we have already mentioned the expansion of the platform in the physical world. It couldn't be possible without robotization. As for robotization, it started with quite simple exercises, for example, in safe service systems, in supermarkets, in airports, in drug stores. But now robotization is just penetrating quite complicated. It is autonomous transport constructions, it's 3D printing, it's health service. And so we can see that these technologies, they're not developing in isolations. They support each other and they develop each other. And artificial intellect should be just nourishing quite big data. But you will make nothing, realize nothing about this data, because now we're here on the threshold of the effect, which is quite known before paleontologists, this so-called Cambrian explosion, when due to the accumulation of evolution changes and exoskeleton, there was the explosion, the bang, and so we got biodiversity. And it underlines the importance of our last point. So the point of regulation. The new technologies, this is sort of a challenge for regulation because they're new. But the regulation influences the technologies in three main aspects. First, so they give technologies their value measure. And the past experience shows that the technologies, well, can make the life of the people better. But some experts, they say that technologies, which on the basis on the fourth industrial revolution, vice versa, they can lead to the split of society and the reducing of social mobility. And also the status of elite could be fixed. Also, it's very important they're finding the right balance about the consumers, business, and society. And the last one, the last but not the least, so we should find the new right balance between the risks of the new technologies, their external effects, and on the other side, the necessity of their development. And besides, created the competitive advantages for our domestic jurisdiction. And I would like to say that the development only in presentation looks quite automatic and is quite automatic. For example, when so we make clicks and everything moves, but in reality, so the development is done by people, well, in quite definite social and historical context. For example, the artificial intellect is approaching. Well, it was worked in the 50s over the last century. It was the symbol and machine approaches of educations, but they were just decades of quite hard work over people to make this approach it would be implemented in a practical technologies. As William Gibson said, the future is spread unevenly. And I hope that today it would be quite possible for us to make quite thorough analysis and quite thorough discussion for us to realize how we can do that the future in Russia would be, well, so the future in Russia will come no later than in the whole world. And I'm sure that we have got all possibilities for the development. And yesterday there was the new Renaissance and the stock exchange, 1 million, and it is a Russian company. So the Russian guys, they approached the stock exchange only in May. So quite complicated economic and geopolitical context, but now they're very successful. And of course, it makes us be sure that yes, we can do. So Platons and Netons could be born in the Russian land. And I would like to pass the word to my co-moderator, Christopher, who will tell how it is done on the level of companies, how can we survive and to make progress in our quite complicated time.
Добрый день, коллеги.
Good day, dear colleagues.
Business is the business of transformation. Specifically, it's helping people to deliver on their ambitions. Okay? So what I'm going to describe to you later is the fundamental 8 steps that you need to go through in this methodology of completing your transformation. But before we go into that, we have to understand first clearly some fundamental truths about transformation. The first experiential truth that we have to acknowledge is that size matters. Okay? If you want to accomplish a large transformation, something along the lines of the national development goals that Mr. Putin unveiled in May last year, these are huge transformations that by definition require many different pieces, many different organizations to play together in order to achieve the real outcome. This should give us some pause to think about how you assign responsibility. I will talk about why I say this later. There's a difference between assigning the responsibility for example, a national project to a particular minister and enabling that minister to work with all his other colleagues in the cabinet in order to deliver that objective. Okay? Conversely, if a responsibility is confined within a very small, a single organization, therefore, the expectation of that transformation accordingly has to be very small. Okay? I can only make changes within my scope of authority. But if I need to make a change across the entire nation, I need to be able to assemble the collective authority of the entire team in order to make the result come forward. This is one truth, and I'll explain a little bit later. So, but when you make people work as a team, and people are people, everybody has their personal objectives, every ministry has their own targets, okay? You will be forced to make some unpopular decisions. Because the truth of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, whether you are running the government or if you are running your own company, you will not have the time nor the money to do everything that you want to do. Okay? So, let's talk about step number 1, the true north. What do we mean by this, the true north? In the presidential representative's speech, he mentioned a very key word, commercialization. So let us speak about commercialization for a little while. What is the real objective of commercialization? Is it to create intellectual property? Is it to create the product? Is it to prove the service? Or is it to actually get somebody to buy it and give you money? Okay? So, a lot of us, when we run our companies, we don't really focus on what is the true north. Okay? The true north of any enterprise is to make money. And in order for you to make money, you need to know what products you want to sell, which markets you are going to address, what features are you going to include in your products, and at what time. You will not have the ability to do every market and include every feature for every product at the same time. Okay? Step number 2, why I mentioned this. Okay, so your true north has to be very clear to enable you to go to step number 2. Can we move to the next slide, please? So I just flew in last night from Nur Sultan. And you know, one of the most famous foods in Nur Sultan is the horse sausage. All right. And in English, we say, you're hungry, I could eat a horse. All right. But, ladies and gentlemen, eating a horse, like your company objective or like the national development target, eating a horse is not something that you can accomplish in one gulp. You cannot open your mouth big enough to swallow that horse in one attempt. If you try to do this, you will spend a lot of time trying to design a new digestive system, trying to design how to make your mouth open bigger, etc., etc. This will take a very long time. Ironically, sometimes the simplest solutions are the easiest way to get your big results. How do you eat a horse in Kazakhstan? You take that big strategy of yours and you grind it up in a sausage machine and you produce a linear series of small pieces of the horse that you can swallow one piece at a time. Now, the reason I use this analogy is because many times we forget that a strategy or a policy document is just one monolithic idea. It's a concept. But that concept does not match with one of your most critical resources, money and time. So you need to operate and understand the difference between a budget and a cash flow. All right? You have a big objective, which is your goal in 2026, for example. But the way to get to 2026 is to break down your actions so that you can know that tomorrow I have to do this. Next week I have to do this. The week after I have to do that. This is how you create a linear program of individual actions with clear accountability, clear targets, clear budgets, okay, so that you can slowly attack your problem. We do this in step number 2 in our methodology called the labs, okay? Number 3, next slide, please. Even after you have created your program, you have done your best with all the best brains to detail out your action plan. There is another truth that we have to acknowledge. our stakeholders are fickle. Your leaders, your political leaders, your commercial leaders, the market itself are sometimes very fickle. People change their minds. And our typical response as human beings is to respond to those new signals. And this has the potential to completely disrupt your program. So how do you make yourself pregnant? How do you make yourself committed to your program? Number 4, please. Next slide. Okay. After you collect the feedback from your stakeholders and so forth, you must publish your plan into the public domain. Okay? The governments around the world that I work with, and Pemandu works with 26 different foreign governments around the world. We work with them to say, you must publish your plans so that they are no longer secret. So as like for example, if you are the CEO of a technology company going for an IPO or you're trying to do some fundraising, you publish a prospectus. Okay, you publish your pitch document. Because you have published your detailed plans, you force yourself to stay committed to that plan. So even if you have a slight disruption to your program, you are able immediately to come back to your original plan because the people that you have shared that plan with are going to expect you to execute what you promised to do. And this is just the planning part. It's very easy. Okay? So identify what is the true north of your commercialization activity. Profit. Use that profit motive to then filter your decisions on what are the unprofitable things that we must eliminate and which are the profitable activities that we should promote so that I make the best use of my money. And then do the detailing of those actions so that you can monitor those actions. And then publish your action plan to the public so that they will keep you accountable. Okay, this is the planning, very easy. Planning still does not produce results. You need to keep the momentum after you have finished your planning. And this is now next step, please. KPIs, key performance indicators. Every government, every organization is very familiar with the concept of KPIs. However, most of the time, KPIs are used as a punitive measure. We use KPIs to try to do performance management. We want to catch people for not doing their job, etc., etc. This, ironically, has a demotivating effect on your people. When you use KPIs to punish, people will set their KPIs so low to ensure that they will succeed. And because they set their targets so low, your transformation doesn't happen. Okay? You will not change, your system will not change, your region will not transform if everybody is shooting for very small targets. You must allow your community to be ambitious. And you have to encourage them to be ambitious by allowing them to fail. To say that failure is okay. All right? Now, I say this as very easy. Failure is okay, but provided you know, next slide please, how to solve those problems for your people when they fail. Any transformational objective must have a very good governance structure in which the highest level authority is present to make decisions when your people face problems. We do this in all of our transformation structures because we know, we acknowledge that man can plan, but God determines. No action, no result is guaranteed. We assume that things will fail. But the issue is not to consider that failure as fatal. You must have a system so that you can monitor the progress of your programs, catch those failures as quickly as possible, and then make the corrective action, get your program back on track before it's too late. Now, the governments that I work with measure their KPIs every 6 months. It used to be annually. Now many governments have moved towards 6-month KPI reviews. And what does a 6-month KPI review mean? It means that potentially you as the leader of the organization are unaware that some project has stopped until the next report in 6 months from now, which means that you as the leader lose the ability to help that project simply because you didn't know. So we encourage, if you want to do a large transformation, acknowledge that people will fail. Design your KPI system to be as granular as possible. In the case of the governments of Malaysia and South Africa and Tanzania, they do their KPIs in weekly buckets. They measure their progress of government programs every week. And they do this not as a tool to punish people for not performing, but simply to provide a signal to the leaders that help is needed. Okay? Then we go down to step number 7. After you have done your work, okay, how do you ensure that the projects that you did are still relevant? These projects were conceived several cycles ago. Some product was designed based on user feedback from 1 year ago. You have now taken 1 year, 2 years to produce the prototype. How are you sure that this prototype is still valid in light of all the other innovations and changes that are taking place in the rest of the world? You now have to create a system where you can review the products, okay? By do a review with external experts, independent auditors, to make sure that you are still relevant. And then the 8th step in our process, next slide please, is to close the loop with your stakeholders to say, yes, sir, my target for this national project is 2024. This is my target, but this is how much I've accomplished in 2019 or 2020. No, sir, I have not hit the 2024 target yet, but look at what I have done. Look at the lessons that I have learned. Please continue to support me. Please continue to give me the budget for next year. Please, dear shareholders, don't sell the stock. Keep the company going because we are still on track. You have to assume and manage your operation as though your development cycle is continuous over many years. Okay? The transformation of a region or the commercialization of a particular platform is not going to happen overnight. But you have to understand that the government administration does not always work that way. Okay? Budgets are subject to change by parliament every year. All right? So you may find a transformation project that takes 5 years be approved in year 1. You get the project, you get the budget allocated to you for first year, and then it's taken away in the next budget cycle. Or some of your shareholders lose faith in you and they say, sorry, I'm abandoning this project. And now you have a prototype version 1 that is ready to go to market, but you have now lost the funding to actually take that final step. Okay? So publish your results. Keep your stakeholders engaged all the time. Be honest about your successes and be honest about where you have failed. But more importantly, make sure that when you talk about where you failed, do the post-mortem and clearly identify what happened and what actions you are going to take in the next cycle to correct it. So if you follow our advice from step 1 to step number 8, okay, you will be able to transform your strategy document or your policy or your company prospectus into detailed action plans that you can monitor for problem solving. We don't monitor for the sake of monitoring. Let's assume that people will do their job. Let them report their progress, but give them the space to tell you when they need help. And you as a leader must be present to provide that help when they signal that help, okay, is required, right? And then review your projects with the external community to make sure that you are still on track, that you are still relevant, that you are not investing in something that has potentially become outdated. You are going for a target that is no longer relevant, okay? And then publish your annual report to your stakeholders to ensure their continuing support. I will come back at the end of the session with more examples, but in the meantime, please enjoy the other speakers. Thank you very much.
Спасибо. Спасибо, Кристофер. Интересно, можно ли...
So it's quite interesting whether it's possible to implement this transformation methodologies for the regions, for the countries. And I think that the answers we'll hear in the continuation of our meeting, because now we proceed to the plenary discussion. And so we'll invite Alexander Zhukov. So he is the Deputy President of the Federal Duma, Sergei Minyailo, envoy from the President of the Russian Federation in the Siberian Federal District, Travnikov, the Governor of the Novosibirsk region, then Vice Rector of the Peter the Great St. Petersburg Polytechnical Institute, Borovkov, Andrei Kuzyaev, the President of our holding, Valentin Parmon, the Vice President of the Russian Academy of Science, the head of the Russian branch of Russian Academy of Science, and Mr. Fomichov, the Director of Strategic Planning and Development of Complex Prom. I would like to say that there would be some other participants with us, and they will join us. They're between our just spectators, and we'll introduce them later. And now our topic is the science and the new era, transformation technology. And we are very just happy today, because today we have got representatives of different authorities, of different levels, and of different territories. We have got representatives of education, society, community, and industry as well. And I think that we'll study these issues from different sides. We of course we should just follow the agenda. We have got only 7-8 minutes, and the first question is to Alexander Dmitrievich. So, on your point of view, what is considered to be the main driver for the transition to the economy of high technology? Is it a state, education community, scientific community, or the companies themselves? Well, it's quite good and interesting question. And I think that business should occupy the leading place. Well, but it's quite evident that without science, without the support of state, quite serious support of the state, so this transition won't be possible to the real digital technologies. Well, have a look here. And the introductory part of our moderators, in their speeches, they have touched the idea that business is always striving to get in the maximum income. And it's quite evident that when we're speaking about the newest technology, everything is connected with the high risks. And it's quite obvious that from the starting point, it's very difficult to predict. So whether the new technology will bring some result or won't. And so the fundamental science just without industry, so it doesn't lead to implementation, because scientists, they invent anything, but then they would be, their main driver would appear, it is the businessman. And so some business should be built on the basis of this or that invention. But it's quite evident that the state should do utmost to create first the positive investment media, because it's quite characteristics for each business, for innovation business or non-innovation, but it's quite evident for innovation business it should be mostly positive media. And I think, and in the message of our president to the Duma, there was the tasks for getting Russia becoming the leader in the scientific research and development technologies, the growth of high-tech companies in high-tech spheres, and the task was to form quite good conditions for the private investments in technological startups. And in this case, there were quite a number of laws adopted. And for example, there was a law adopted concerning the industrial policy in Russian Federation. So it became the legislative basis for the development of technological parks. Which main ideas is the developing of the investment activity and becoming it the element of infrastructure with the support of medium and small high technological business. So it is the law. So it creates the media of the support of high-tech business by the state. And from this point of view, the state is considered to be one of the drivers and maybe one of the leading business for the development of high-tech business. And as entrepreneurs also think so. And so we are at Technoprom, and also today we just visited the exhibition. And there were quite interesting exhibits, quite interesting developers, and they were based on the most breakthrough achievements of science. And we can see that these developments, of course, they need just quite serious state support. And everyone, it was spoken that we are ready to implement. But nevertheless, we would like to get state support. Sometimes we would like to get the state order, or it could be, for example, state grant. And of course, we can't do it without some special taxation and tax favors. And of course, we have got, such sort of favors. And of course, we're supposed to work in this or that direction on different levels, on federal level and on regional levels. And for example, during the spring session of the State Duma, so we have adopted the federal law concerning the changes in the law of the Innovations Center Skolkovo, which makes us to implement this development of Skolkovo, not only on the territory of Skolkovo, but on the territory of the whole Russian Federation. So, because now everything is also all provided only in Skolkovo. That's why we provide some just fruitful context for the development of the ideas and the support of high-tech business. And today we are just working on getting ready, several just legislative initiatives. For example, it was the laws dealing with the regulation of the digital media, and if we consider it to be of extreme importance for the support of technologies. And in accordance with this agreement, there would be the legislative regulation, in creating special legislative regimes and modes, the so-called playgrounds, which will make the possibility for the media to find the most effective directions of business. And of course, the final answer to your question would be what is considered to be the main driver. So I think that everything should coincide, because there should be a businessman who is ready to implement this or that idea. There could be this idea or development as well, and further, with the help of the state, with the help of the creative mechanism, technoparks, and so on, the so-called institutional media for growing such of a project, some effective project could appear, and it could grow into and become big business. Thank you very much.
So this question
Может быть, имеет смысл посмотреть и на опыт.
Makes sense to have a look at the experience of our partner, where the state actually limits their role in commercialization. I mean, the creating of institutional environment and legal environment, and probably the primary order. The internet was actually done on the order of the Department of Prospective Research of the Ministry of Defense of the United States. But you mentioned the regional aspect, and after that, I would like to ask Sergei Ivanovich, what are the best practices do you see of cooperation between science and technologies at the regional level, and what measures of support are actually we would like to have to the main important issue, which is like a scaling of our invention? Thank you so much. Good afternoon once again. I would like to say a few words about the previous issues, since they're interconnected. So you see, I don't know why, but we, it is a custom, so probably it is our peculiarity. So we have black and white, so which are two extremes, and between black and white we have a lot of shades, and in general it all depending on what kind of direction and what kind of field we are mentioning, what driver we are talking about. So let us say not a field of economy, but so probably the military ability. Who is the driver in this issue? I believe it should be a state. And if we're speaking about the other branch of economy, like, for example, any like agriculture, for example, or so on and so forth, and we need to understand who should be the driver here and should make assist. And after that, going to your question, the answer will be the following. First of all, we have to determine. So we have authority and we have science. And so in science, what I mean is education. And we have industry, we have production, and we have consumer. And depending on the situation, we need to determine the role and the place of each of these structure. Like as a driver, in some like issues I have already said. So in some it should be like state and probably the requirements of the market, and so the requirements of the market actually determine the development of economy and business in general. And in some issues it should be business itself. But so Valentin Nikolaevich and with other scientists of our academy, of the Russian Academy of Science, we always speak about one thing. There is a science, and so this is a kind of It's a kind of a field, and there is industry and production, so is a field, and there is authority. And so, do they coincide or do they cross? And so, since there was a moment when they used to work according to the orders, but we have already outlived this period, so whether it was necessary or not, but they did it. And there was a very difficult period when they didn't even like coincide, but they survived. And in my opinion, now they have to cross each other. And when they cross each other, we are speaking about like some kind of cooperational links. And in this situation, and the same thing, the question arises, like for example, so let us take science as an example. What is the role and the place of science in this issue? Whether it should be, whether it is a driver or it is a kind of just a scientific support, or this is what we are talking about, business. If I can do something that you need, that you demand, but tell me what you need and give me some like technical task. Unfortunately, mostly we do have examples today. We have very good examples today, like for example, a scientific institute named after Reshetnev and the Center of Radio Production and so on and so forth. And these examples, so this is just what our life needs. So this is the requirement of our life. And what we are talking about, until we create or until we renew probably the cooperational links, both scientific and technological, I mean within the science, and scientific and technological as well as industrial. And so there will be also cooperation between them. We will not get the effect that we need to get. And you also asked me about some regional things. Well, you know, in general, today, any cooperational link is a kind of interregional or intra-regional. And I would like to go back to science and to production or industry and the level that actually demands something. So we did some the kind of technopark, the layer between them. So this is a structure that should have been. And so we also have such an example that they implement what is necessary, what have been developed, and also to scale it and to introduce it, to represent it. And also, there should be kind of some improved advanced technologies, and we actually sell them as a kind of experimental one, or there are goods and goods, so let us say, not of mass production, so that's actually produced in a very small amount, but it is in demand as well. And now we have to, first of all, go to the first thing. You have already mentioned it, as well as Christopher also said about it. Now we need to go to the new technological level, a type of relationship, and we also looking at all this new type of relationship. We need to go to modernizing of our industry and at our production. And of course, so this is not a kind of our personal aim to introduce this product, but it has to meet the standards and the requirements of not only our internal one, but also global, international. And it should be competitive in its, first of all, quality, its cost and all the other things. And looking at this, so there are no actually gaps in the market. I know the niches have already been filled, but we need to fill the market, and we try to enter them. And if we enter these niches of the market, we should not enter them not as a kind of an analog of a product that actually we produce, but as a product which is in its level is higher, since, you know, we understand perfectly well that when we come to buy something and we do not know what is this and what is that, and we actually buy what we know, and the level has already been developed, and it has been developing for decades and centuries. So it is one direction. And who should do what? First of all, we also need to understand that if we speak about some flexible, the market, so what is flexible to the market is business. If it doesn't react, it doesn't actually reconstruct, it will never work. Therefore, in some issues, in my opinion, there should be not also assistance or like, for example, giving preferences, but regulation as well. There should be regulation. What kind of regulation? Like, for example, I have measures of state support, and I'm absolutely sure that at every ruble that was invested as a kind of a support into different directions of economy, or like, for example, business, there should be 3 or 4 rubles of effect, of return. And it also concerns practically all the directions and all the fields or in all the directions of economy. But to do it, there should be a specific system. So we say, hey, first of all, like we have a main role in a place, which is a government authority, and after that science, and this place is for business. But so, dear colleagues, dear entrepreneurs, if you want to produce what you want, so do it at your own risk. And if we recommend you something, so this is what we need, this is what is in demand, or for example, you prove that something is in demand, that it will produce a specific effect, and according to the criteria that I have already mentioned. So please, so we will provide you the measures of state support. Since any measure, so this is a budget, this is expenses, and we need to refill it somehow. And only with such an approach, like we actually can think about it, and some people can say that I can offer to go to the elements of state plan. In some fields of economy, probably this is what we should do, and in all the others should understand, and the state should understand where all the measures of the support that they provide, they go to. And if I speak to some representatives of power, like for example to some governance, and I say that for self-employment, and I say, dear colleagues, if we help as a measure of support only just for self-employment, to provide self-employment, we will not have enough strength, or will not have enough funds. And in my opinion, it all depends on the targeting, actually. Both of you, Boris and Christopher, you mentioned it about your platform, what I want to get as a result. And as I understand it correctly, what I want to get as a result, I will be able to calculate and to plan all the steps, starting from the nearest step and a long-term goal, and I need to understand at what level should be done, and what I have to do as a business person, who I have to ask, and who I may ask to do what I need. Of course, it is not for free. I mean science, but in this form, we have a commercialization of science. I mean, what they do in science. I mean, not fundamental science, of course, but some people, they do not what they want to do, but what is in demand today in many directions, and what is necessary. And for this, including also the state and business, they're ready to pay money for this. They're ready to pay real money. So, and all in all, this is a kind of generalized opinion, and I believe that without this, it is real to do something, or to become a kind of a driver, or it will be impossible to change something. And the second thing, I understand that there is a kind of multiplicative effect. If we have a scientific potential, there should be an education potential. Otherwise, it will never be refilled. So we increase the level of education. And if there is a technological or high-tech things for example, breakthrough things, and of course, the level of production also increases, and production is modernized, and the level of those and the education of those people who work at this production is also high. It increases. And so all in all, it is all interconnected. But we need to understand who and what is going to be a catalyzer, and who is going to be a steam engine, and who is going to help who. And if we speak about the region, or municipal scale or regional scale, I believe today it is not actually relevant, since at the regional level it can be done as a kind of a startup, or Technopark. In Novosibirsk region and Siberian Federal District, we are very lucky, since we have the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science, and there are regions where they do not have such science, and they do not have such a level of education. And all this construction we cannot actually implement from region to region. But, well, actually, if we define clearly what we want to reach and who must do that, and after that we need to understand how to do that and what we need for that. I believe that we will have a very good effect and we will understand where we have to invest money in and where we shouldn't invest our money in. So this is, and what is the most important in your opinion? Yes, 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 of course. So thank you so much. I believe the scientists, they have agreed with me. Thank you so much. And let us speak about those who are lucky.
Andrei Alexandrovich, you're the head of the unit of the subject of the Federation, and so it is one of the biggest educational and center, but also the head of the group of science and education. That's why you have got the educational point of view on these problematics. So what is the role and the impact of the Novosibirsk region in interregional cooperation and the cooperation of the region with the federal center? So, and what is their impact in these parameters? Well, I am not going to estimate the role of the Novosibirsk region and the input of Novosibirsk region in the development of country. I think everyone here realizes it. But I would like to speak about the role of regions in the development of the scientific and the scientific technological development of Russia. Of course, this is the subject which is discussed at different in different discussions, venues, and especially after the adoption of the national project science. And for example, today at the meeting of this working group, so I apologize for some people who are present. Maybe there would be some repetitions, but my colleagues, governors, sometimes they say that the role of the regions, so it is reduced. So there are no just actions in these national projects. And so we can't influence the system of the higher education science because when we speak about the federal institutions, of course, we're facing such kind of a problem. But of course, it shouldn't be overestimated because the roles of regions in the science and technological development, so it's quite evident. Well, I can enumerate different directions. First, it is the role of fixation, the personal potential on this or that territory, the role of management of different parts of these territories as well, if you speak about this or that region, because in order to create the conditions for the harmonious development, especially for the creation, the centers of the technological development. And it is quite actual for the Novosibirsk region because the scientific center here, it is located in quite compact territory, but it is the territory which is highly developed. And that's why we can make some decisions to make the development of this territory and the infrastructure as well. And besides, we shouldn't neglect the coordinative role of the regional administration because the authority of each governor, because it's quite possible and it's quite enough to build some operation connections inter-regional or inter-religion and to support or not to support this or that initiative at this or that time or this or that project and to make the priorities. And today, if there is some measures of the state support, measures of regional support, so of course we should study the demand. We should make some subsidizing or grant just mechanism, and so the role is evident and the role is quite big. But of course we are facing some problems. And again, speaking about different levels of administration, and there was the suggestion how to solve it. We are working it in our working group of the State Council, And also we consider here some just regional instruments, some regional tools, because the main part of our state council, they are governors. That's why we would like to collect their suggestions and what should be changed in the regulations for the regions to get more possibilities, especially in the field of finance, in accordance of solving quite burning issues, well as for the issues of property, land property. Also some administrative and personal decisions. And of course, we couldn't say that we are not solving these issues nowadays. We are not using our authority, but sometimes it needs some additional efforts, time, control. We should control the situation because this or that federal body could just realize the decision which could be harmful for the scientific and technological development of the region. And I greatly hope that inside our working group, we'll just prepare such kind of suggestions, we'll just inform the President administration, and I think that the opinions of the regions would be taken into consideration and they would be supported. And because this hope is based, that we can see that this is the new nature of the dialogue between the President and the regions. Thank you very much. And now
let us go from the regional.
Перейдем на...
We will now go to the functional thing, and in this respect, I would like to ask Alexey Ivanovich, you are heading the working group of TechNet of NTI, National Technological Initiative. So now they have a very, very ambitious goal that they set is the achieving technological leadership of Russia in 2035. And how are the things going now with NTI, and how NTI interacts with other important problems? So first of all, with national projects such as digital economy and science. Thank you. TechNet, which are like leading production technologies. So one way or another, we are aimed at high-tech production and industry. The initiative was actually started by the President in December 2014. So we are going to celebrate 5 years, and we have 8 roadmaps, and we have just finished the competition for small and mid business. So this is a fund for supporting the innovation. 1.4 billion actually was allocated as subsidies, and so it will be 1.5 billion will be invested into small companies by their development. So this is a kind of a fifth line. So it is started into 100 of different companies that are leaders, and they are made at local breakthroughs. And also there are such initiatives that a lot of people know. University 2035 of a new level, and a project of education intensive island. And on the Ruski Island, this is it collected 1,000, and it's Tech 1,500 people that come from the region just to get acquainted with technological frontier, with the best practices. And after that, I would like to go to the fact that new technologies like TechNet and Roadmap that was supported and that actually was formed a kind of a basis. And with Sergei Ivanovich, we actually in November we signed it. This is TechNet Siberia in Tomsk, and so there was a meeting of the engineer of Siberia, 450 people, and so there was this Siberian agreement with association organization that actually coordinates the activity of a lot of organization in Siberian Federal District, which is the organization, and also it's influent into the industry. I saw that there is a general construct of ODK, and we have a roadmap of TechNet ODK, which 2024 they have a very good plan for all the enterprises that actually influence on ODK that are located in different regions. So there are federal aspects, high-tech problems, and as well as some regional aspects. I also would like to mention that the leadership is a national initiative. It has formed a new paradigm, the paradigm of like a kind of projecting from the future. We need to see the markets of the future. We need to form, as it was said in the plenary, in our reports, we have to form the roadmap, and we have to control them. We need to understand what kind of technological barriers or like administrative barrier we have to eliminate them, since any roadmap is actually, like, for example, to exclude some normative barriers or administrative barriers, and this is also a very good input into regulatory activity. And after that, breakthrough into the local direction, and actually, where there is a kind of a leap, and after that, formation of technological preference. And so there are some companies, and there is a very important aspect, and Ministry of Trade and Commerce actually helps with standardization, and they have to implementation of the best practices, as well as the formation of so-called that standard certified aspects of their solution. And within the frames of NTI, I would also like to say there is a very pride of approach that was implemented into the science project. This is a competence of NTI that are responsible for the leadership in specific direction, like new production technologies, for example, and they're also responsible for the cooperation with for the systematic organization of networking. For example, our Center of Competence of NTI on the base of St. Petersburg Polytechnic University, according to the new production technology, we have formed consortium from 59 organizations. So, well, like, for example, include such organizations like Rosatom, Rostech, that also consist of 700 other organizations, and we needed to form local consortium to form different tasks and different challenges. I would like to note that now we are at the next viral of our development, the stage of our development from the scientific and educational center. I would like to note Kuzbas, Tyumen, Perm region, where they have already 4 mega projects, like, for example, in Kuzbas, including with our participation and an input of NTI is quite big there. It is a digital mining enterprise, and so there is also a digital pool, which is the largest one in our country, so which is a little bit smaller than Mississippi and Amazon. And the next one is like within 30 minutes, we're going to find it with mathematical institutions of the Russian Academy of Science. They had won a competition to create a new scientific center in the field of mathematics. So it is also a kind of NTI and the global level of cooperation. So we have started a new paradigm, a new global paradigm. We have started also supported by new institutions, and we have leaders that are supported by many institutions. I would like to mention one problem: national champions that are also controlled by Ministry of Education, and they are oriented at mid-business. And I also have characterized it, and there is a federal project of the digital technologies and the breakthrough technologies. So we have also developed a roadmap, and we have involved more than 150 organizations into its creation, 250 experts, and in a very short term it was done, and it was already approved by the government commissions. And there will be a lot of new projects, like, for example, leading scientific centers, and we are going to start and activize the activity of 7 institutions, the development institutions that we have. I would like to say that NTI is a kind of a very good start, and it started a lot of processes that actually implement a lot of practices into many national projects. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have mentioned the importance of interaction with the scientific and academic community, and therefore have a question to Valentin Nikolaevich. So, first of all, I would like to share to our panel.
So, if you look at the places we occupy, concerning the level of publications, well, it could be sometimes it could be 11th place. As for patent, it is the 8th place position. As for the Nobel laureates, we are in the first 10 in so in the first 3. But what happens further with the commercialization of our outstanding just gains? Why are they not commercialized inside Russia? And if they do, quite often it happens in other countries. And so the first question is to you, and then going back to the topic of our plenary, the science of new era and the era of science. So what are the challenges we faces if we forget about, for example, about the scaling? Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to express my point of view concerning your first question. Who is considered to be the first driver of the technological breakthrough and leadership? Of course, it is a state, but clever, just smart state. And in this case, it means that the education and science, well, is considered and is taken into consideration. Well, if possible, I would like slides. So, friends, so the main topic of our forum is transformation. And for example, last year and this year, there was the greatest transformation of everything, of state, and state turned the face to the science, and it happened for the first time for the last decades. And there was the national project science. And as for the people of Siberia, we consider that our task is very serious, just to fulfill what is implemented and implied by this project. So what is Siberia and the science of Siberia? It is the Siberian branch of science. It exists for 63 years, and it is responsible for the leadership, technological leadership and scientific leadership on the whole territory of Siberia, and it makes 70% of all the territory of Russia. As for the goals and for the goal indexes, so indicators, we consider that the first goal, it is the making its attraction for Russian and foreign scientists, to make it attractive to work in Russia. And if we won't just cope with this goal, all our intellectual potential, all our scientific and business potential, so because everything we have got in our brains, and it is our main tasks. And as for the priority of the national project science, so they are the right priorities. Well, and we can make some more priorities. But considering our Siberian branch of science, we consider that the main driver of our mood and what is happening within us now, it is the smart state. And in February last year, but then it was in the documents of April 2018. So the concrete tasks were formulated for the Siberian branch of Russian Academy of Science. And so we have started the development, and with the envoy, there was the plan of the complex development of the Siberian branch of Russia Academy of Science, taking into consideration long-term plans, and then the administration of Russia, so they should the development, the plan of the development of Novosibirsk Akademgorodok, and these two orders. So they solve the question we are speaking about, the questions we are speaking about, the issues we are speaking about. So it's quite good ideas, and so for the first time, within the last 29 years, we got the regulation from the President of Russian Federation, considered the complex development of the huge part of the Academy of Science, because Siberian branch, it is 1/4 of the whole Academy of Science. And as for the development of the Novosibirsk Scientific Center, it was considered by Novosibirsk was named the scientific capital of Russia, and everything was fulfilled. So, and now about some positive moments in our life, in the life of Novosibirsk Science. So there were some financial events, but also after the adoption of the National Project Science, First, there was the building of the center, more price of 30 million rubles, and it is one of the large-scale project. Also, there was the continuation of the realization of the infrastructure of the mega project, National Geophysics Complex of the Russian Academy of Science around the Baikal Lake. So, and this project is realized in this year, and more than 1 billion rubles is used. Also, within the framework of the National Project Science, we have created over 74 youth laboratories, so with good financing, and of course it's a very useful help and for making the personnel to stay with us. Also, so we can boast, as it was said, Novosibirsk has won the competition for the creation of the International Mathematics Scientific Center of the world level, and participates in 2 consortiums, which won. So the competitions for creating the centers of genome study, and so that is the result. And also, as was said, there was the first 5 pilot projects for creation the scientific and educational centers. There are two educational institutions of Siberia. So what is very important, it is the creation, the comfortable media for those who make education, who make science. In Akademgorodok, the scientific center, they should be the centers of attraction of the highly qualified scientists. They should be targeted to 30, 50 years ahead. And also 2 cities, they are considered to be the most fixation cities: Tomsk, the university, Novosibirsk. So for it being unique for multi-educational complex. For those who are not from here, I would like to show you what we are speaking about. So the Novosibirsk Scientific Center. So 3 academic towns, Naukograd, 52 research institutes of the Siberian branch of science, 4 federal research centers, Novosibirsk. Also, we have got 24 universities. We have got the center of world level named after academician Mishalki, is cardiological center. We have got the best academic park in Russia. So that's why we have got quite a lot of things to rely on. So, and last year, Putin was in this very building. So we have presented our program, Akademgorodok 2.0, and it was approved. And so this is the current condition of this project realization. The structure of the administration of the Novosibirsk region is reorganized, so they have formed the special ministry. So we have made the decision for the development of social and transport infrastructure, for example, using regional resources. At the administration of Novosibirsk region, they have created the coordination council for the realization of this project. Over 10 flagship projects are on the stage of agreement in the federal investigation programs. And besides, so we have started the concrete realizations. So now first we started, and it's quite symbolic one, and we have started with the development of the Lyceum named after academician Lavrentiev, who was the creator of the Russian branch. Now we have got 4 stories starting from March, and we hope next year, so it would be started into operation. Then we'll create this unique system of administration, management. And I think we have got points of view, and also And so this is our calendar. What will happen? So everything is okay. Besides that, business and technological breakthrough demands also the trust to our just federal developers, and there won't be some just lack in financing and postponing in financing. Because, for example, besides of May, and we were expecting to get money in May, and it was according to the budget. Now it is the middle of September, but we haven't got money yet. And I would like just to say the final words, that the technological leadership of Russia, the mightiness of Russia and the mightiness of Russian science would be grew through Siberia. Thank you.
It is a very impressive result and even more impressive plan. I also like the idea about the clever state. And so let me, from the authorities, bodies and institutions, I would like to go to the level of companies. And I have a question to Oleg Vladislavovich. From your point of view, what technologies of the fourth industrial revolution do you consider to be the most promising for the growth of your business? And the second one, and what is the scale do you see for your business? So it is not a secret that for the platform and as well as technologies in general, the scale is of importance. And we see there are a lot of different platforms, American platforms, Chinese platforms, Indian platforms, and it is connected with a very big internal market. In Russia, we have, as in terms of scale and project within our states, they're actually not so, well, let us say they're not so outstanding then in these countries. And what is the economy of scale for you, and how do you, and what kind of economy of scale do you see acceptable for you? Thank you so much for your question. Well, on a low, the scale is actually dictated by the level and by the sector that business operates in. And since there are different categories of business and there are such, I would like to say, multifunctional and many branches of holdings, they can actually work in different spheres and they can look for different niches. And when they see where the markets are growing, and they go there and they develop different businesses there. And there are some like very narrow ones that actually develop, like for example, within the frames of German models, they increase the level and probably they try to get a niche. And so since there are some of them that are very narrow in comparison with scales of Apple and Google, but there are only two companies in the world in this niche, and they dominate and they produce high-quality products, and nobody can get into this niche. And I believe that we have a potential both in the way of holding for different models. And the first two models, it is mostly connected with the development of digital technologies. Then Digis gives an opportunity to go to different markets. And here is the issue about platform. I would say that so that's a very trivial answer, whether you're a platform or you work at the platform. So since there is no third variant in Digit nowadays, you do one thing or another thing. And there is also a variant of creating your own platform, I mean, for Russian companies. So in my opinion, first of all, they are connected not with the competition, with the monsters that actually exist at the consumer markets, like, for example, Amazon or Alibaba or all the other. But so there's fast development area where there are no so obvious global leaders. So these are production, platform production, internet, and digitization of production. And here the competition is quite tough, and definitely we have a candidate to the world leaders, but there is no domination, like, for example, at the universal platforms. We do not see it here. And we actually consider the variants, if we say about like digitalization and industrial internet, it is first of all digitalization of production. And if we speak about like a brand new industrial technology, so this is Internet of Things. And in general, for business, I would like to say, and to go back to the discussion that we have already had about who is and what is the driver of business, or should it be an innovation driver is a state of business. I would like to reformulate and I would like to combine them into one, since in my opinion, state is absolutely important. It can it can assist or make any innovative activity absolutely impossible, but within the frames of the thing that it creates the infrastructure and it creates the institutional conditions. Of course, it is a driver of innovative development as it is. And in my opinion, of course, it is business, since if we look at cooperation of business and science, and as a result, so there are breakthrough technologies appear and breakthrough products appear. And to start this cooperation, so first of all, we need to have competitive business that should have resources to invest into innovative development, and that also should function in a more or less comfortable economic environment. Just the first is no crises, and it's the first condition to start any kind of cooperation. And sometimes we even have this problem, as it is well known. But this is just a starting point, and after that, business has to find the developers that it would like to cooperate with. And so, a state, actually, to tell the truth, has done a lot recently, since they have created very big infrastructure for business and developers to like a kind of interact. And we also have Skolkovo, a lot of technological valleys, technoparks, and so clusters they also created. And we form technological platforms to give an opportunity for developers, and so as well as state bodies and business, and they could sit together and they discuss the possible projects. But it is not a guarantee that Russian business will go to Russian science, unfortunately, for development, since the easiest and the direct way is the import of existing technologies. And this is what Russian business does, actually, the most part of it, since you work in a very tough competition in the market, and if it is a global market, so you actually start using the technologies and the equipment that your competitors have. And only after that, when you have reached a kind of a level of technological maturity and you are at the same level as your competitors, you actually come to something that gives you an opportunity to be ahead of your competitors. And only in this way there is a space for cooperation, and here for Russian business, but as well as in any other international business. Well, Russian business need not only like scientific developments as they are, but probably potentially just technologies that work and that can be implemented into industry. So business will not do like alone, since it has to be supported by the state, that will give an opportunity for technologies that appear, the scientific ideas that appear in institutions, like actually to implement them into a kind of a working prototype that can demonstrate that the technology can be implemented and its industrial application. So, and a lot of things have been done in this respect, and venture market also works that actually supports and it actually leads startups to the stages that it can be demonstrated and can be sold to strategic investors, or probably it can be led independently to different markets. And of course, what state should do, and in my opinion, here from all the construction that I have already described, so I would like to say that this success, well, not actually really good, is actually to eliminate like some legal risks. I would like to say that as for our legislation, we would like to do that the legislation should follow the development of initiatives, but unfortunately its legal application actually like is very slow, and it influences all the stories of cooperation of business and science. And well, the key factor, in my opinion, it is the last but not least, is of course personnel, like personnel at different kinds of level. This is what Alexei Barakov have already mentioned, that this personnel who should create like new innovative business like startup and so on, that they have to generate ideas and stuff for business that are going to and they will adequately implement them. And it is a very big problem, not only that in the categories that I have mentioned, and that not like work in specialties, that is actually improving little by little. And we have some very big problem with technologies in different enterprises, since like all those who worked in the Soviet era, they already retired or probably they passed away, and like all the new ones, they gone to digit, and they started to be like we do not have people educated into some specific areas. There's those people who actually provide the quality of technological process, and this is what like business cannot do individually, and this is what is actually necessary for the cooperation of business and science. And without it, the development of business and science actually slows down. Thank you so much, but also that we see kind of a vicious circle here. We need a scale to implement our own standards, and on the other hand, so it is not profitable to develop standards actually for a small market.
На мой взгляд,
And here we think that this is the way out of making our cooperation of Everses, because, well, where it is far away, so no one is waiting for us abroad. But here it is the real problem. So, and I can speak about my professional activity, but returning to the technological level. Andrei Leverich, so your company in year 2017 made the decision for the development of such key technology as the fourth international revolution, as internet things. So can you speak about the history of this project, what is happening now and what will happen in future? I would like also to debate with the previous speakers, and I would like to say that we can just decode the name of our session in various ways. So, for example, the new era and the science of new era, it is technology of transformation, or the transformation isn't possible without science. That's why I would like to make some remarks. And I think that in front of us, as the whole country, now we have got technological and global challenge. And when we're discussing here the state, science, entrepreneurship, so all we are one nation. So let's imagine then a decade ago, there was no such breakthrough which happened in the 60s last century. What sort of nation could we be? Or, for example, let's mention the earliest period. So it was the issue of nuclear energy. For example, atom fission. This technology was developed for the military purposes, but now Rosatom is one of the engine of the progress, and we can see precisely what technological challenges they determine the future of our country. And our today's discussion. The answer to this technological challenge. So the question is whether we would be a great nation just in several decades or no. Could it be possible for us to get on a wave of a new digital era and digital epoch, and not only in the scale of our country, but could we make some technological decisions, such platforms, services, products, which could be products in the framework of the whole world, in the scale of the world, and it is our challenge we would face. And as for speaking about the transformation, I think that the transformation should be not only within the separate companies. There should be the transformation in the scale of the whole country. So new era, new country, new goals, and new possibilities of reaching this or that goals. And I would like to highlight that now we see the first transformation, that now the science say now, so the state is facing us. And as a business planner, I can say that now we're just thinking about how to stimulate the innovation, the investments and the innovation growth. Of course, we are waiting for quite long, but I think it will come, and there would be such legislation which would stimulate the innovations and will ensure one part of our risks, and for us not to be bankrupts in case we are not very happy. And of course, so we shall share success, and we share not very successful events. That's why we should transform on the levels of regions. And I constantly am thinking about, because I was born in the Urals, and I think why? Because many years ago in Soviet time, it was Siberia. So the Siberian branch of Academy of Science was created in Siberia, in Novosibirsk, and now working here and communicated here. Now I think that the main reason is that Novosibirsk is located quite far from the center. That's why you could make more initiatives, and that's what you competitive advantage, more freedom, more advantage, more interests. And in this case, in the case of the innovational development of the region, converting it from the center of science into the center of innovation activity, and in this case we would move in this direction. And several words about my company. So our company is 18 years old, more than 20,000 people working, and we are working on the territory of the whole country. We have created this country. Nothing was 18 years ago. We have built telecommunication company. It is number 5 in country. At the end of the year 2015-2016, we realized that what we have done, so this market has already formed. We were created it as the private company of television and internet, but 80-70% in the bigger cities. And so now we faced the dilemma. What we're supposed to do, just to have growth of 2-3%, or to look for the new market and to look for the new points of growth. And now, of course, we have got competences, we have got knowledge, we have got experience. And then we have made the decision to create the family of products which are connected with the just industrial Internet of Things. And I could say that now we have got just dozens of new products. And of course, we haven't created all these services ourselves, because we'll try to integrate the decisions which we are done with the technological possibilities we have got. And telecommunication companies, it is the companies which create infrastructure. So we could be providers, we could be integrators of more or less done. And one principal point of view, and it deals with what? So when we are just coming, and quite often we say that IT and telecom, they are drivers of the economic growth. But as for our company, I would like to say we couldn't be drivers today if we do not transform ourselves, because our level of automatization is approximately, and digitalization is approximately 50%, but it should be 90, because now we have got 20,000 just people, but the productivity should grow higher. Now we spend 2 or 3 years to produce new service, new product, just to approach the market. But now we'll need to reduce this period for 2-3 months. So this is the challenges we face. Thank you very much.
So really, you said that that's a kind of, I would like to say, note of optimism, since we have branches where we can set the standards, we can dictate them. So this is like military cooperation and nuclear energy. So this is our GLONASS. Well, this is what we shouldn't forget. And of course, space. So therefore, I would like to ask Kirill Germanovich Akhotkin, which is in charge of information satellite systems. So your branch is traditionally very knowledge intensive. So therefore, the question that I have, what are the best practices of interaction of technological company, like for example of you and scientific institutions exist? Well, thank you so much. The space industry in general and space tech and satellite systems that we actually introduce is one of the knowledge intensive branches in our economy, and we have a very good basis here, and so we have all prerequisites for the break new at the global level. And since the space system that we have, and it is one of the main element for transform our economy, and the system that is going to provide the connection of all the territories of our country. And it is a well-known fact that a very good condition, like a breakthrough development, is also the cooperation of science and production, and as well as education. And we also work in this field for a long time. We had created new mechanisms and model in the format of integration plus with our main academician partner. This is like a Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science. Our company have very high tech implementation of all these ideas that is represented by our scientific community. And we have created a complex system to manage the preparation of our staff, the education of our staff, to combine with the science, with the innovation, and with the work at the production directly. Like, for example, new personnel. This is motivated personnel. That's actually ready to work there, and they work with a great desire, and they would like to work in our region, and also combination with science. And in our opinion, the best practice here that is recommended itself is technological platform of our satellite system, which is a communicative site that unites us and our colleagues and our partners that actually had this partner, and they say the ties for the industry, and more than 100 participants from different academic institutions and universities from different regions of our country. But the main core of our partners here in the Siberian Federal District is Krasnoyarsk, Novosibirsk, which is also our Zheleznogorsk site with a territory with high concentration of science and industry. And here we actually use different tools to support science and scientific development, innovative development. The more prospect one is also offered by the Ministry of Science and High Education, which is like the full information and technological science. Here we, with our colleagues from this Siberian branch, we have proposed a new program of global information systems that starting from the fundamental studies and from the scientific and basis, and also the modernizing of a new satellite-like system. This is geodesics, and after that they are going to the market of new space services, and it probably will be implemented due to the creation of new digital platforms, due to the complex of unification from different space complex and geopositioning and geodesics, and as well as the integrated development of new data, which will give an opportunity to create new breakthrough technologies and services that will form the markets of the future. And to conclude, I would like to say that we also work with different tools that, like, for example, to support the development of the territory that we are located in, and to support the innovative scientific activity, and within the frames of national projects and other projects. And the most successful here in our work will be the combination of the tools that actually support the development of branch and regional competences and interregional interaction, since our partners are in different regions. And our many years of experience of interaction has also demonstrated that this program is successful. Thank you. Thank you very much. At the very end, you have mentioned the importance of regional aspect, and I would like to ask our next speaker, Rustem Ramilevich Hafiz, the Deputy Director of Association of Innovative Regions, of all the regions of Russia, about how innovations live in the regions.
Thank you, Boris. So if we're speaking about the regional aspects of the development of innovations, because now of the most discussed initiatives, it is the preferential modes, and I would like to say that today it's more than 500, and the Ministry of the development, of the regional development. So it's speaking about the investors when they come to the regions. So it is the administrative just regulation, and it's not legislative, because now we'll discuss the attraction of the workers to these territories. And if you speak about the high-tech development of the territories, it's not necessary. It is not necessary without companies, because now we have got national champions. So they're so-called regional champions, because if the region say that about high-tech business, and when business comes for the support, so it's very important to work and to react for the business which we have got there. And for example, as for Renaissance appeared, and so in this case, a unicorn appears. So it is high-tech business. Now it is at the top of it's at the cornerstone, and it formulates the climate in the region, and we need to support it. And so what we can see and what happened here, so it is what's the measures of the pause? They are from the side of the state, and of course they're used, but the volume of market, the cooperation they have got, and the law 2021, 2023, and how to form the equipment using so for farm favors for the buyers. There should be some measures of support, because the pharmaceutical industry, because when we have got to our telecommunication companies, when they it's not because of the quality of equipment, but because the main factor is price. And usually foreign company wins because they can give just lower price. And of course it is very important moment we are supposed to think about. And much was spoken about the academic science and the university science, the so-called cooperative science. Because now we are just it's quite in great demand, because we have got unique corporations, and they have got unique R&D centers, and so the medium business can come and make order, and we'll need how to formulate the mechanism for the support of the medium business and to lower its risks for them to come to these R&D centers and to be over the world level. So this is my comment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we have got one participant, but so this is the girl. Her name is Dasha. Well, and so this, and she would be assisted by Alexander Zaitsev of the company with the same name. Now, you will show what Dasha can do, and also I would like to say, so why all this intelligent, they have got female names. I know only Oleg, but maybe it was named after Tinkov. But all other names are female names. Is this a tendency? So this is a tendency, because female name, it is associated with something we can trust, something quite safe, so quite known to us. Now we'll demonstrate it.
All the skills that Dasha has. Yes, now I'll initiate a telephone call, and I will talk to Dasha in a real-time regime. So now, while we are actually dialing, I would like to say that in Emphasa network in Novosibirsk area, so they have a robot whose name is Nikolai, so which is also a male name, and I believe he's trusted especially by women since the time it started, and the number of calls has already increased. I mean, the calls from women. So this is absolutely great, and I believe that we have to start like both with female and male voices, since for every person can use the robot that he or she likes. Is Dasha ready? Yes, yes. And now I'm initiating. Hello. Hello, Dasha. My name is Dasha. As I understand correctly, that now you are at the forum Technoprom and you want me to give you more information about this event. Yes, can you please give more details of what the participants should visit and probably the places that they should visit? Well, they have a very big choice. There are more than 90 formats at the program of forum that they have super interesting topics like, for example, innovations in medicine, new technologies and education. And of course, there will be sessions devoted to artificial intellect. I don't know how about you, but I will go there. Okay, no doubt. But could you please tell us, in your opinion, what can the artificial intellect is capable of? It is not only some entertainment functions, but probably some interesting things, right? Yes, to tell the truth, I do not only some entertainment functions. I also have and solve a very difficult business task and help companies to make money. And I manage brand loyalty and there's also different conversations like telephone conversations. And the main thing, I'm never tired and I'm never sick and I never have bad mood, and so I can have an unlimited number of calls. And this is what I'm doing now. Thank you so much for your answers, Dasha. Thank you so much for everybody that you have devoted your time, and all the best. Bye. Well, I believe that it is a very good finish of our panel discussion. And before finishing, I would like to give floor to Christopher. Since I was asking questions, he was listening very, very carefully, and he was writing it down. And he would and probably he's ready to resume our plenary session. And now I would like you to focus on the following aspect. I know that your company has a lot of contracts with the government agencies concerning the implementation of innovations. And how does this experience, how it can be useful, how it can be used in Russia? What are the best practices here?
Barry, I know it's before lunch and everybody is getting hungry and tired. So I beg forgiveness first. I'm going to say something. Please don't take offense. I see there are 7 speakers on the stage with us, and I'm reminded of a very old English children's story called The 7 Blind Men and the Elephant. Right? Where essentially, when you bring 7 blind men into a room, I'm not saying you're blind, this is just a story, and you ask them to describe what an elephant is like, they will touch the elephant, and they will all come up with differing answers because they are touching different parts of the elephant. So my conclusion here, what I'm trying to say is, I think everybody on the stage has said something correct, but at the same time, it's not perfect. Yeah? I personally don't like the term commercialization, okay? Because commercialization does not tell me exactly how we're going to get to the true north that the nation desires. Okay, if we follow the traditional definition of commercialization, starts from ideation, prototyping, pre-commercial sampling. You did a commercial prototype, then you create a commercially market acceptable product or a service. Now, let us think carefully. I just Googled some results here. How many people know that Tesla is we all know what a Tesla is. Hugely acceptable. Everybody aspires to own an electric car. That company was unprofitable for 14 years. It didn't make its first profit until year 15. Uber. Everybody has Uber on their phone. Now it's Yandex. Uber is still unprofitable, even though it's a perfect product. Okay, so from a commercialization standpoint, this is a perfect success. Great products, great service. Everybody loves them. You're not making money. So I have to ask the leaders of the nation here, what is the real objective of this attempt to drive commercialization? To me, commercialization actually the path to the real objective actually extends from commercialization into sales. Now, the real problem then, the distinction between commercialization and sales is that commercialization is about quality, sales is about volume, it's about scale. Yeah? Now, when we put these things together in a chain, in a value chain, we will start to see that the ownership of the different parts of the value chain change. And this is where Menyalo was perfectly correct when he says there is no black or white. We are living in a gray space. The ownership for the ideation phase. And how do we characterize ideation? Research and development, high risk, very unpredictable chance of success. Okay? Which sector, public or private, should be the rightful driver of such a phase of this activity? Clearly, the state should drive this part. Okay? The development of new ideas, the creation of fundamental technology platforms, all that absolutely should be created by the state, should be driven by the state. But if we go to the end of the chain, how do we do sales? Sales, you intend for your technology to be sold across the world. And the world is very big. Okay? The government is in no position to be promoting sales, right? This end of the chain must be driven by the companies themselves, right? Because your embassies are perfectly positioned, but they don't have all the time to promote every product to every country that they are in. Min-Prom-Tok has the trade office in every country. They don't have enough time to promote every product and every service. The businesses must be held accountable for doing the necessary business intelligence to tell us which country do we stand the best chance of making some real money with this particular invention, given their understanding of the demand, of the needs of the target country. So it's a supply and demand situation that we have to tie together. So, but even commercialization, okay? Commercialization is characterized by heavy capital investments. Okay? Research and development is expensive. We cannot expect our companies to invest in R&D, fundamental R&D. Companies should be encouraged to invest in developing applications based on those fundamental platforms. Now, then the question is, how do you incentivize those companies to spend the time to take this fundamental technology and develop it into something that is usable for the consumer? Okay? Then the question of working capital. Developing new applications requires heavy investment in design tools, in failure analysis, in certification fees, etc., etc. Alec made a very good point just now about standards. It is one thing to develop standards for Russia, but in order for me to sell overseas, I actually have to comply with the standards of the buying country, not the exporting country. And that requires another investment, okay? And then you need to be very careful to select which countries to invest in so that you are not doing research to certify your product for every country in the world, but be very, very focused on where you can make the most money. So it's still, you have a successful platform, but you still need to worry about the sales part, because that is what gives the country the money, that's what creates jobs, that's what drives the country forward. Now, in certain examples, in case of Malaysia, for example, just for your information, I used to work for Intel Corporation for 20 plus years. And then when I joined the government, I was made in charge of the transformation program for the electronics manufacturing industry. Now we found that entrepreneurs, we have no shortage of entrepreneurs in our country that were capable of designing chips and new modules and so on and so forth. But these companies were caught in between investing their limited working capital in driving production or buying equipment to test their products, to buy their design tools and so on and so forth. So we in Malaysia took the initiative to get the government to fund shared services centers in the universities. So where now we incentivize the universities to play very closely with the commercial world. This model is very, very prevalent in America. From when I worked in Intel, I used to spend a lot of time at the University of Michigan, where we Intel, paid for a research lab at the University of Michigan. So the professors at the University of Michigan were doing work for Intel using the tools that we paid for, but we own the IP jointly with the professor. This is a discussion that is currently going on in Malaysia today. Professors at universities are incentivized in a very different way. They are incentivized by publications. They are incentivized by citations. So it does not really matter if the research that they do doesn't produce any money, because they work in a different world. But the Americans have allowed their professors at the university to co-own intellectual property that is created in their labs with the company that originally funded the research. And this gives the academic community the incentive to focus their attention on things that have real commercial value, instead of things that are just going for a paper or going for a competition or something like this. All right? We even do this in the area of public health in Malaysia. And this is a conversation that I hear it's quite valid in Russia as well. Our citizens also dislike going to the public hospitals. Okay? They always prefer going to the private hospitals for obvious reasons. Now, our university hospitals are among the best hospitals in the country. But because the doctors are paid so poorly, they always migrate to the private sector at earliest opportunity. So we changed the law in Malaysia actually to allow these specialists at the university hospitals to practice privately for 4 hours a day, all right, within the public hospital, so they can make money and still remain available to provide good service to the general public, all right? Now, so I'm tying all these things together. So the upstream part of the sales cycle should be absolutely driven by the state, but there are things that we need to do to ensure that both the academics and the companies are properly incentivized to participate. Then after you create the innovation, then there's the issue of production. And production is now a volume game. And here is where the regions start to become more prominent, because the regions are where you have the source of labor, there's the source of land, there's the source of logistics, all the assistance required to enable a company to build a factory and make it operational. All that support comes from the region. But that's just manufacturing. Then how do you sell? Selling overseas is now a knowledge-based conversation. It's about knowing the market. It's about identifying clearly which fronts to attack, right? And this one clearly has to be driven by the private sector, by the companies that are actually doing it. So now I summarize all this by saying, if we look at this as a big train, the locomotive of the train actually is the company. They are the ones that are pulling this train. And doing it this way is very good for the government because, number one, it relieves the government of the burden of trying to figure out everything. Okay? Let the private sector use their own market intelligence to drive the program. The second good thing about this is that private sector CEOs are self-monitoring. You as the government do not need to spend time to chase the CEO of a company because he is accountable to his chairman, the chairman is accountable to their shareholders, and so on and so forth. If they fail, there are consequences that the government doesn't even need to worry about. So this is how countries like Malaysia, China is a very, very good example of how they are promoting the export of their technology platforms. They fund the universities, they encourage companies to work with the universities, then they back it up with support from the Exim Bank, and then the Exim Bank works with other institutions locally to participate in the development of the national development programs of the target countries. They become part of the ecosystem of those countries, okay? And then they sell their products as friends, right? So my conclusion here is that we are in the right. Everybody is right and everybody is wrong. We have all the pieces together. The issue here is who is the owner that can cut across every aspect of this chain. This is the research and development chain, the commercialization chain, the manufacturing chain, the marketing and sales chain, the financing chain. All these are traditionally under the responsibility of different ministries, different agencies within the government. So if you don't create a condition where all these ministries are somehow tied together under a unified umbrella, okay, everybody will continue to just try to describe their piece of the elephant. And you will have a very funny picture at the end. This is my contribution to this conversation.
Спасибо, Кристофер. Значит, я думаю, что после...
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you. Yes. So thank you so much. That's such an interesting topic that Christopher actually mentioned. But unfortunately, and for the happiness, we cannot apply the Malaysian model for Russia as well as the model of the United States. So this is one thing. And sometimes speaking about this, we actually try to follow the stereotypes. So this is one issue. And another thing, I understand that in college, of course, you can give an opportunity for the doctors to earn money, to work privately for 4 hours. But Christopher said from the point of view of business and economy, and he said very right things. And so also we have social responsibility and the social obligations that we do in no state, including Malaysia. So nobody has such states for organization. This is additional burden. In addition to that, creating specific condition for the implementation of any stage of the project. And in addition to that, and this is what you have said, that 7 speakers, 7 blind people, And so this is about the elephant. And I also have such a feeling that when Russia is a kind of an elephant and everybody tried, just as speakers was blind, they tried to touch it, and all of them tried to touch the place that he or she is led to, and to tell the truth. And I believe you, Christopher, as well as your colleagues and our partner, you understand perfectly well. You understand one thing, that Russia tried to make a kind of a leap forward. And a lot of people and countries are not interested in it, and not all of them feel comfortable because of it, and thus trying to assess, or trying to kind of say what is right and what is wrong. You are going to the fact that you agree with. We do not have black and white. We have a lot of shades, but assessing us, a lot of our partners say black or white. So therefore, I wouldn't say something like in such a very loud word. So let us live up to 2014, and we will see what is going to happen in 2019. After, well, of course, with some challenges and so on, we will implement on the tasks that we have set. And after that, we will compare, and we will recollect in our memory our opinions and our assessment, and we will compare them. And after that, we will say who was right and who was wrong. So I have no doubts in the fact that we have our own way in this issue, but nobody denies that there are positive practices that we have to take example, that we have to rely on, but there are also subjective and objective conditions that the system where these practices can be implemented is. So therefore, we have already passed this moment where they could have some private practices, and they could say, could you please come in about 2 hours, and there will be a private practice there. But they should be a kind of a combined result. So this is what I wanted to say. And therefore, I would like to wish you and to all of us that we need to understand who is blind and who is an elephant. Thank you so much. So as a conclusion remark, we have a kind of discussion. So, and I believe it is wonderful. I would like to thank all the speakers for a very good and interesting report. So that is why we didn't follow our timelines and to our and we have a very, very small things, which is awarding of the winners of the regional competition exporter of the year. And now all the speakers, may I please ask you to take your seat in the first row and this is the final remark. Dear friends,
so I think maybe we won't go very rude estimations, because we are not at the institute, we are not at school, we are not teachers, we are not students. We can express our own meaning and our own just estimation of how we do see it. But maybe let us not to speak that all of us are right or all of us are wrong, because each of us we have got our own experience or our own understanding of the world and our experience, and the experience which is realized with all the mistakes and without them. Thank you. Dear friends, we start the ceremony of the awarded of the Russian award Exporter of the Year in the Siberian Federal Region. So their gains at the federal level. So there were more than 500 exporters, and only 7 of them, 7 successful. They will go the prize and the opportunity to compete in November. Have a look at the screen. our goal. So we have gained the main goal, this national project. So there was the order of the government of the Russian Federation. So Anton Sunayanov, the first deputy of the head of the administration. So the regional stages, all Russian premium, the nominations in the category of big business, the exporters of the services, breakthrough of the year, the nomination in the category big business. So the award will be done for the support and the development of the Russian business and orientated on export. So are you just successful exporter? Tell us about it. Please register for the participation. And for the awarding, the envoy of the representative of the president in the Siberian Federal Region, Sergei Ivanovich Minyailo. Yes. The first nomination in the exporter of the year in the sphere of industry, the small and medium nominations, it is all Nectronics, Omsk City. So the leading engineer of this company is invited on the stage. So the scientific firm Micronics provides all sphere work for the technological process, and it's developing the equipment to the Kazakhstan Republic. The part of goal is 10%. So we developing the products which are interesting, and we are just working for these countries. So they use our licenses on our assembly lines. So please applaud for this high award. So the nomination in big business, the nomination in industry, Tomusinsky, just repair factory, Междуречен City. So the head of the technical subdivision is invited. Mr. Pashkov is invited on the stage. Have a look at stage. So this plant is one of the leading in the country. So it makes the excavators and all parts of the assembly excavators in Russia. And the export is 20%. And this is quite good cooperation between the price and quality. And that's why, so we are quite popular at Russian market. And now we are abroad. So please, your applause. Sergei Ivanovich, thank you. So now, the governor of the Novosibirsk region, Andrei Travnikov. He would be doing the awarding. Our next nomination is the exporter of the year in high-tech spheres in the category of small and medium entrepreneurship, or C-sort. It is Novosibirsk City, and the head of this giant stock company is invited on the stage. So have a look on the screen. So it makes smart equipment for different products, and separators are exported to all parts of Russia, and now so it's increasing, and this company has got 16 foreign dealers. This year we decided to open our just representative branch on the territory of Germany. We continue the ceremony of awarding, and the next nomination, the exporter in high-tech technologies, big business. It is the company Barnaul Petron plant. The Deputy General Director of this company is invited on the stage. Have a look on the screen. Barnaul Petron's plant just makes So it has got just Southern America, so East New Zealand. So it's so we are working and quite in the world, and it is one of the good places in the world. Andrei Alexandrovich, we express gratitude for this participation, and we continue our ceremony. Now, Mr. Filimonov. So we continue our ceremony, the Exporter of the Year in the agriculture complex. So the category of small and medium entrepreneurships. So it is Sladenish company from the Omsk region. And the division manager of this company is invited on the stage, Maria Kuznetsova. Have a look on the screen. So this is the confectionery plant Sladenish. It provides its products to 14 foreign countries. Well, I think it's everyday work, so it's stable quality, and we're working for more than 50 years. Thank you. And the next nomination is the Exporter of the Year. Good day. I would like to say that our country is sure that next year we would be at this stage because the volumes of sales are growing up, and we'll do our utmost to develop the export in Russia. Thank you. We continue. And the Exporter of the Year in the category of big business. So it is Karavai company of the Irkutsk region. It is the assistant of the head of this company. So the company Karavai produces more than 500 just units of bread product. And so we export quite many of it. Vietnam, Korea, Mongolia, China. So our product, so they are loved in the Asian countries. And of course, it's great. Thank you. And so we continue the ceremony. So we'll express gratitude. And the Exporter of the Year, well, in the field of services. So Rubias Group, the company, would be awarded the Tomsk City, and besides, Rubias Group has got the first place in the nomination Year Breakthrough in the category Small and Medium Entrepreneurships, and for just awarding 2 awards. So this is the director of Rubias Group, Mr. Kudinov. It is developing of the software and technological research, and so the expert is 30%. We work with Japan, Korea, Italy, Germany, and many countries, and we have got a lot of users around the world. Thank you very much. So just applauding for these 2 awards. Maxim Gennadievich, you may express gratitude. Thank you for the organizers. Thank you for the hosts of this forum and the discussion which has happened on this very stage, and what Christopher said. So as for the modernization, so it could be used everywhere in each sector, and because so we'll make steps. Which Christopher was speaking about, and I would like to say that one of the stage, it is the appealing to the Russian Expert Center for the support for getting into foreign markets, international markets, because now we have created a sort of a complex system for expert support, and each expert center, it has got some very useful functions, starting from with classical measures up to finance support. As for non-financial measures, as for the search of the market analysis, for example, international market analysis, and another help just approaching online platform, and all this is getting out the borders of country where our representatives are working. And there's the special representatives for this system to be quite comfortable channel for all exporters. That's why we're asking all enterprises to join it, because we think that the world is without borders, and well, Russian people are here. Thank you, Maxim Gennadievich. Dear friends, so we express gratitude for those who got the winners, and so be fruitful and have good partners, and let your success inspire another partners. And so made in Russia, so it's very proud. So our ceremony is ended. See you again.